Welcome to Join the Conversation, a podcast brought to you by COCM. I'm your host, Kyle Jones, and joining us today is Gray Bekurs. Gray is the Vice President of Business Development at COCM. In this episode, we'll be discussing the critical role of on-campus housing in student recruitment and retention. Gray will share insights on how on-campus housing can influence a prospective student's decision to attend a particular university and the innovative strategies implemented by COCM to make on-campus housing more appealing. Ready to get into it, Gray?
I'm ready, Kyle. Thanks for having me. This is an important topic, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Wonderful. So when we talk about the impact of housing on recruitment and retention, how does on-campus housing influence, a prospective student's decision to attend a particular university?
It's a huge factor. APA, which is the College and University Facilities Professional Association, did a study, and I want to say it was 10 or 15 years ago, but they've updated it regularly since then. And what they found was that the facilities on a university campus are one of the top three drivers when students make decisions. They're looking at academic programs, they're looking at the social life, but the facilities are right up there with those other two as one of the things they say are critically important. Student housing obviously is a big piece of that as well. And I think the important things there are not necessarily the newest, nicest thing, but they're looking for clean, safe, quality housing that's also affordable. And when universities are able to hit those four things, it's clean, it's safe, it's of good quality. It doesn't have to be the newest and the nicest, but it has to be livable. It can't be a dump. If they go on a campus and see something that's run down, that's not going to be a good image for your institution. But as long as it's of good quality and it's affordable, those are the things that really drive students and make them interested in at least the housing portion of a campus. Another piece of that, I think, is also the program, the residence life program that's initiated in the residence halls themselves. So good programs influence retention and recruitment because incoming students talk to their peers, they talk to their siblings, they talk to other people at the institution, and they'll listen and they'll learn about those experiences there. So if somebody's had a good experience and they talk about it, that word of mouth gets around, and that certainly helps with recruiting students. So it's the facility. Is it clean? Is it safe? Is it of quality? Is it affordable? And it's the residence life program. Do you have a good program there that engages students, that connects them with each other and connects them with the rest of the institution? If you're doing those things, then housing will absolutely be a recruiting tool for the institution. Other things that we see students wanting related to that, privacy. Institutions that are able to offer private rooms and or private bathrooms to incoming students sometimes have an edge. And this is a little contradictory with our philosophy with residence life, right? Because we really want them to connect to each other. And part of that's having a roommate. Part of that is sharing a bathroom with other people and going through that collective experience. But from a recruitment perspective, that's not really what students tell us they want. And we've surveyed them. COCM has done many surveys at many institutions, and we found time and time again, privacy is of the utmost importance.
So it sounds like privacy is a big factor in choosing, where these students want to go to school at. Gray, tell me about some of the other factors that influence this decision as well.
Sure. One thing we're seeing, and this is especially true at community colleges, and remember, community colleges really at their core are about access to higher education. Usually for folks that don't have the opportunity to go to, say, a four-year institution or an elite school, but really want to get their higher education. So they're about providing access. One way that we're seeing them do that is through initiation of student housing programs. We're seeing across the country, from Florida to California, community colleges are adding housing to the campus. So there's a lot of first-time housing programs. and all the fun things that go along with that. But it's really about providing students outside a commuting distance access to higher education and providing somewhere for them to live. Those students, absolutely, a place to live is a recruiting tool. A place to live at a low cost makes it even more of a recruiting tool. So really the focus with housing at most community colleges is more about a low cost option, so that students have somewhere to stay and they're not worried about housing. So their housing is secured. Hopefully there's a food program to go along with that. So food is secured so that they're able to have access to that higher education experience and focus on their studies.
Thank you for that insight. So I wanted to ask you, Gray, what are some of the other innovative strategies that we here at COCM are implementing to make on-campus housing more appealing to new students? We covered what seemed like to be the basic necessities and the factors that influence that decision. But what are we as a company and as a management company doing in kind of an innovative way?
We talked a minute ago about privacy. And again, not to harp on it, but really what they have told us, students in these surveys, is that they really want privacy. So if we're looking at, say, an older residence hall, because if we're designing something new, we can design whatever we want, right? So we work with an institution and help them come up with a plan that works for them. But a lot of the schools we work with have older residence halls that have already been done. They're double loaded corridors, bathrooms at the end of the hall, two to a room, those kinds of things. So how can we, in the context of that environment, create opportunities for privacy? We look at what's going on inside the rooms. Sometimes rooms can be reconfigured to offer more privacy within a suite or within an apartment or something like that. Sometimes we can convert double rooms to single rooms. Sometimes we can take a bathroom that's a community bathroom and convert that to something that's more of a, our former president, Doug Brown, used to call it the Delta Crown Room type bathroom. It's called the Sky Club now, but he always called it the Crown Room, where you have an individual stall that's completely doored off, but it's still in a larger room. So perhaps we engage and interact with students at the sink or brushing our teeth, but we have more privacy when we're showering and those kinds of things. So sometimes it's reconfiguring spaces to offer that additional level of privacy that we know they want, because that's what they've told us, without having to completely rebuild a residence hall. The other thing is, in addition to privacy, what we hear is that the students really want places where they can be alone together. But not inside their residence hall room with that roommate that's there 24/7, right? So it's how do you arrange the study lounges? How do you arrange the gathering spaces so that, one, you want to encourage interaction, have places where they do gather and do study as a group, and have the collaboration boards on the wall and the whiteboards and the overhead media and all of that. But we also want places in a larger room where they can go and do individual study or work on their laptops or those kinds of things, put their earpods in and sort of be alone, but be around other people. They really enjoy those things. So if we're able to, even in the context of an older space that may not be designed for today's student, if we're able to work with an institution to find ways to provide those spaces, we find that that's very appealing to students.
Great. So we talked about some of these strategies and ways to make these spaces more appealing. Can you discuss that relationship then between creating a quality student housing environment and the student retention rates?
Sure, and there's been a lot of academic research related to this, and you find out that the things that really drive retention are one, interaction with faculty members outside the classroom, and two, engagement, right? So in a residence hall, how can we influence those two things? One, interaction with faculty outside the classroom. Well, living learning communities where faculty are coming into the buildings, perhaps hosting a class, but then sticking around to have conversations, forums, those kinds of things. something less formal where they're just hanging out. Sometimes we'll have faculty in residence where they'll live in the residence hall and do evening academic quasi-social activities with residents. Those things are great for retention, and obviously student housing is a great place to make that connection between faculty and students when they're not in the classrooms. The other one's engagement. So, and that goes somewhat to the housing piece of it, but really that's the residence life piece. So we have to have a strong residence life program where we are connecting students with each other. And we do that through intentional activities and programs and events and those kinds of things, but also connecting students to the outside community at the institution. They need to find their place where they belong. So it's incumbent on the residence life team, which is part of the housing operation usually, to really make sure that the residents are making those connections. Some students find their place very quickly. They come in, they join a fraternity, a sorority, they might join the band, or they might be part of an athletic team. So they already have their group. They already have their friends. They know who they're eating dinner with, who they're going to hang out with tonight, all of those things. So that's great, but there's a lot of students that come in that don't already have that. So how do we help them find their place and make their connections? If we do that, if we do that, I think those are the biggest ways that we really influence retention. Outside of that, excellent customer service, cleanliness, following up with maintenance requests, those kinds of things, making sure that students have somebody to come talk to when they do have a problem. All of those things also influence retention, but honestly, it's about the engagement and the interaction with faculty. Those are the two biggest drivers, and student housing is a great place to influence both of those.
Wow, that's really insightful. We talked a little bit before about, being able to come into some of these spaces and update older buildings, create more privacy, or take those doubles to a single, rework some of those bathrooms, things like that. So we touched on those, but what are some of the other specific features or amenities in student housing that have been shown to positively impact student retention?
From an amenity perspective, I think it really goes back to what we talked about a minute ago with the places where they can be alone together, and also the places where they can collaborate academically. So obviously most residence halls are going to have social gathering spaces and lobbies and lounges and TV lounges and perhaps some golf simulators or swimming pools or whatever those kinds of things are. And sometimes we make light of those and say, oh, it's just fluff and dancing teddy bears, if you will. But those things, I think, while they help, market your facility and help recruit students, those can be good retention tools too, if you go back to how do they build community. So if the residence life team uses those amenities to gather people and connect them to each other, then they're very useful tools in the retention. So I think any amenity can be a retention tool. For us and what we see mostly, places where they can be alone together, they really like that. And then the other piece of it is the academic collaboration spaces. And this could even be tied closely to whatever the institution's programs of strength are, or recruiting focus, or those kinds of things, or location of a student housing facility on a campus. Next to the music department or the School of Music, we want to look at practice rooms, perhaps a small theater or something like that, where they can be together, connect with each other, connect to their academics, and collaborate. It might be study rooms, it might be conference rooms with the chalkboard paint on the walls. All those kinds of things that encourage people to come together, spend time together while focused on their studies are excellent retention tools.
Fantastic. And before we wrap up today, I just wanted to ask you one last question. How does COCM approach the unique housing needs of different campuses and student populations? Across the country, we're in a lot of different campuses, and this generation of students is different from the last, and so on and so forth. So how are we approaching that at all of these different universities and colleges and campuses that we're on?
First, I'll talk about how they're the same. fundamentally, regardless of whether we're at a community college, a four-year institution, California, Idaho, Florida, North Carolina, wherever, fundamentally, we have to provide good service, good customer service. That is part of the baseline support that these students need because they're challenged in other areas. So the first thing that we have to do is make absolutely sure that living in student housing is a support structure for them and not an additional challenge on top of their academics and their social life and all the other things that are going on. Okay, so that means we have a clean, safe facility. Everything works. It means that we're providing 24-hour turnaround on work orders. It means that we're following our daily cleaning schedules. It means we're maintaining the building. We're doing all our preventive maintenance so that a facility, is great when it opens, and it's also great 20 years after it opens. So baseline, we have to do those things for all of our partners and all institutions, all students. They all need that. Working with different colleges and universities. We talk about community colleges and access, and a lot of times it's really how can we get the rents as low as possible. So that might mean that at those institutions, some amenities are forgone because there's a cost side to that that obviously has to be built into the student rent that they can't support, because the goal there is access to the institution at the lowest possible cost. So there, it's less about amenities. It's more about keeping the cost down, still providing the excellent customer service. And also that residence life piece is still critical there as well. How do we connect these students to the rest of the institution? And sometimes at community colleges, that's a little bit more of a challenge because oftentimes those students are coming in and they're a little bit more degree focused and a little bit less community interaction, college experience focused. But that piece is important because that really helps with retention as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering that and giving us that insight. Well, before we go, again, I just wanted to say thank you, Gray, for spending some time with us and talking about student housing and student retention with us, and look forward to more conversations.
Thanks, Kyle. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. If you would like to learn more about the student housing professionals at COCM and third-party management of on-campus housing, visit our website at cocm.com. You can find more information about today's episode at studenthousingmatters.com. While you're there, check out our blog posts and videos, or submit an idea you'd like our team to explore.